Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we are going to be looking at the rear master cylinder and reassembling the parts that I've restored. So all the components you can see on the cloth are form the rear master cylinder. These parts here, everything that's bright silver has been zinc plated. The body of the master cylinder has been painted with etch primer, 3 coats of normal primer, 3 top coats, and then 2 coats of clear coat or lacquer over the top of that. Again, petrol resistant ones are hopefully. If we get any brake fluid on this, it's not all going to start peeling off. So where are we going to start with this? I think probably the first thing to talk about is making sure that all the passageways in here are completely clean and clear, so that when we reassemble it we don't have to start messing around taking it apart again because it's not working properly. So what we've got is we've got our threaded hole here, which is for the banjo bolt. So this is the feed of for the brake fluid to come into the body of the master cylinder. We've then got this hole or this orifice here, which at first sight seems to have one hole, which you can see down there, and then another hole, but it appears to be blanked off. But if you look very closely at that, and I don't think you'll probably see it on the camera, but there's a really tiny hole in the center of that hole there. So basically what happens is, as the plunger gets pushed in and out by the brake pedal, oil, brake fluid, is then free to move through this hole and through that very tiny hole there. So one is a, if you like, a feed, and one's a return. I guess that's the way to put it. A lot of problems caused with master cylinders are because that extremely tiny hole right in the center of there gets blocked very easily if the bike's been standing for a while or the brake fluid is old. So in my case, this was working, so I've not had to really do a whole lot to it. Having said that, this has been through the parts washer, it has been ultrasonically cleaned, and I have got some extremely thin wire, because you don't want to make that hole any bigger. So you always want to use something that's softer than the material that you that's got the hole in. So I just use a very thin copper wire, and just made sure that hole was absolutely clear. So that's that side of it, and then ultimately at the end, the other end, we've got where the plunger goes, the hole where the plunger goes. Okay, so let's have a go at reassembling this and see where we get to. So we'll start with what goes on here, and that is basically an O-ring, and this T-piece, if you like, which then goes off to the caliper. So our O-ring just sits in the hole like so, and then this piece goes through the O-ring and is then secured in place with a single screw. What I'm having to do is, as I'm going along, every screw or nut or thread, I'm generally having to run a tap or a die down these, because I've re-zinced them. It adds a layer of zinc, which increases the thickness, if you like. So just to get it back to where it needs to be, I do generally have to run a tap or a die down these parts. Got it lined up properly. Perhaps not got that quite lined up properly. There we go. I've taken liberties with this because that screw was actually gold passivated, and I've bright passivated it, or clear passivated it, because frankly I couldn't be bothered to heat up the gold passivate for one single screw. But there you go. Hopefully the rivet counters won't pick that up when the bike's finished. So that's that part on. Next easiest thing to do, I guess, is probably the banjo bolt. So we've got our two new washers, and obviously there's meant to be the hose that goes on here, but we're only assembling everything loosely at the moment before it goes back on the bike. So that's that side of things. Excuse me. So next comes the adjuster. So we have one nut, the adjuster, that screws all the way on. I did take a photo of this, so I know where it was. It was right down the end of the thread. I'm sure it'll need fine adjusting when it's back on the bike, but for now this will be absolutely fine. That's that back on. And then what we've now got is a boot, and I've made a mistake again, haven't I? Because that boot is going to sit there, but it can't sit there until I've put it through there, and I can't put it through there because I've just put that on. So let's take that off. Live restoring, warts and all. Let's take that off, slide that on. That makes more sense. Then back on with the nut. Now, I'm making these mistakes, so when you come to do it, you don't have to. There we go. Thread that back on. Okay. Time for a swig of tea. Okay, so I know that that washer and that go together. They go through there, and that connects to the brake lever pivot. So we are missing a split pin for this. I've got some of those, I'll sort that out in a minute. So what's left? We've only got three components left. We've got the spring, which returns the piston to its normal position. On the top of the spring is a seal. So the order of this is basically that part, that part, that part, and then this, which goes in here to hold this in place. So that's the order we're putting things back together in, and that the flat of this seal rests against that, and that provides a seal at the bottom, and then we've got another rubber seal here, and the idea is that the brake fluid runs around these grooves as we're pushing the actuator up and down. And then we've got a cup in the top of this piece, and we've got a dome there, and that sits in there like that. Right, so what I'm going to do as far as assembly goes, because when I push this into here, I don't want this seal to flip round the other way. So I'm going to put a little bit of brake fluid on there. I suppose you could use a drop of grease or something like that, but as it's going to be in contact with brake fluid in the normal course of everyday operation, it just seems to make sense to me to use that. Okay, so let's put a drop of that around there. Keep my hands clean so we don't get the brake fluid on the painted parts. Okay, and then that drops into there, and that should, yeah, pushes down into there, and that'll provide a nice seal as it slides down there. Next after that is our, I don't know what you call that, I suppose I'd have called that a worm gear back in the day, but not sure what you call them these days. Archimedes screw possibly, whatever. It's a threaded portion that slides down into there next. I'm sure there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube you can go and watch if you want to know the ins and outs of exactly how one of these brake cylinders works. Just keep my fingers nice and clean, and then basically that then follows that one down into there like so. That's it. I can tell that's made of seal because I can actually feel it pushing air out of there as I do it. Okay, so that's that part of it back together. Now comes the fun part, because what we've got to do is we've got to get this compressed into there as far as we can, and then get our circlip on. So not sure how well this is going to go watching it on video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my circlip pliers out before we go any further. Right, set out. Which ones do we need? These ones, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can set that up so that we can watch what we're doing, or you can watch what I'm doing while I do it. So next we put this into here and push that, compress it all the way in, like so. Oops. And then, no, it's not going to work, is it? Nice idea, Steve, but not going to work. Oops. So this now goes, that's what I should have done it like that. Okay, so let's try it again. Push that down. Don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll try and move my hand out of the way if I can a little bit, so you can see. And then we're just going to compress that circlip into there, and then just hopefully push it down till it clicks into place. I think that was it. I'll soon know when I let go of it. Okay, I don't think that's quite in. Let's give it another go. No, it wasn't. Okay, let's just go around that to make sure that's all in. This problem is this rubber boot's getting in the way as I'm doing it. There we go. So, I'm happy the circlip is now in properly. Let's give that one more check. Yep. And that basically is it back together apart from, so this rubber boot now sits down inside this recess, and it's quite soft, but there is obviously a seal, a harder seal at the top, and this is quite hard to compress as well, which holds it in place. And then the idea is the top one sits in, let me just put that out into that groove just there. So again, I'm going to put just the tiniest amount. In fact, you know, as that doesn't come into contact normally with brake fluid, I've actually got some silicone grease here, so I'm actually just going to use a little bit of silicone grease around that, just to ease that on or in. There we go. I'll push that down over there. Just what we could do is just put some in that on there as well, just to help that top one over. There we go. Right, so that's now sat in there, and then that just needs, just very gently, a blunt screwdriver. You don't want to damage it. Just ease that down in there so it's all in properly. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Just wipe off that excess grease. Okay, and then what should happen is we push this up and down. That noise is the air being forced out, which is good, because that means there is a proper seal in there, so I'm happy with that. We won't know for sure until we've obviously got it back on the bike and we've filled the system up with fluid and tried to bleed it, but that does feel like it's supposed to feel at the moment. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So then finally we've got this pin and that, and the idea is that this goes through a hole in the brake lever pivot, and then there's a pin on the outside of that. So basically, so this will go through here. Right, which it's not going to without some persuasion, because again I've zinc plated this, and obviously it's put a layer of zinc on this and made it very slightly thicker, and the same with this, so it's no doubt coated the holes as well. So I'm going to have to get, I think, a bit of emery paper on there and just do that, which I won't bore you with. I'm sure you know how to use wet and dry, but that's basically it. And then when that goes through there, so there's a split pin goes in there, which obviously we're not going to do at the moment until we reassemble the bike. But basically that is our refurbished, restored, whatever you want to call it, rear master cylinder, brake master cylinder, ready to go back on the bike. Okay, well that's all for today. If the video has helped you at all and you liked it, please give it a thumbs up down below, and subscribe to the channel. That always helps, and I will see you in the next one.